Hi Big Dragons! I'm here to do the books that didn't work for me this year and why I think that they didn't work for me. I have a couple of books on here, and honestly, I'm just gonna be honest, a lot of these books just were not Laura books. And if you like these books, I'm so happy for you, but we all are entitled to our own opinions. So if you clicked onto this video, be warned. We're gonna get a little bit negative, but so yeah, I'm just gonna go in order of the books that I physically have first. I do have another copy of another book, but it's in with my favorite books because it's on the same exact shelf, and I don't want to get it out. So just know there is one more special edition that I do have, but it's on a different shelf, and I don't want to take them all out right now. So yeah. The first book we are going to chat about is probably one of my least favorite reads, like, starting off of the year. Like, this is the first one I gave, like, 2 stars to, and that is A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft. The one thing I get upset about when I read book boxes is that, like, they are so pretty, like, especially my Fairy Loots, they are just stunning additions, and I just want to love them because I want to keep them all on my shelves, but this book was just very, very boring to me. It is a fantasy romance set at Regency era. I think she was like a tailor and she was like writing stuff for the prince, and then they fell in love. It was just boring. Like, it felt like I was reading like a historical romance that had no interest level. I didn't like the characters. And I will say Alison Saft has another book on this list, so I don't know if it's just like her newer stuff hasn't been working for me, but I'm just so upset because this book is so pretty, and that is why I kept it for so long. But yeah, this book just did not work. It was a very, very disappointing read, and I hope the other books I pick up, like her older stuff, I like a little bit more, but all her newer stuff has not been working. And these books are in no particular order, but I definitely will save the one that disappointed me the most for the end, because that one was a big disappointment. I also gave 2 stars to The City of Stardust by Jojo Simons. This was another book that just bore me. Again, stunning edition. Like, such a pretty edition. It is probably going to live on my bookshelf just like this because I love the edges. But yeah, I really struggled with this book. It was boring. I didn't feel connected. There was a lot of characters as well in this book, and it just was not hitting. Like, it did not hit the way that it needed to. And I really struggled with it. I only gave it 2 stars. This was a relatively recent release for me. This was another book that I had a couple of copies of because I got it at Comic-Con the previous year. But yeah, it was boring. It seemed like it would work because it was a fantasy mystery. It had vibes like that, but it just didn't. And there were too many characters for me to feel connected to, so I only gave this book 2 stars. Another book that is on this list I don't have a physical copy of because I got the book I think I sold this one, or maybe I gave it to my students. I can't remember. It's called Greenwild by Pari Thomas. I'll touch a photo here. And this was a middle grade book, I will be honest. However, I normally love middle grades. Like, some of my favorite series of all times are middle grades. Percy Jackson, Keeper of the Lost Cities. This book was confusing to me. It had a really weird premise about this girl who kind of is like staying with relatives, and her family goes missing, or I think her mom goes missing. She has to go on this quest to kind of find her mom, but her mom's in this like mythical location. But I didn't feel connected to any of the characters, and I kind of like grazed through just to give it to my students, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I won't be reading book 2 either, which I do have a NetGalley art for, which is a bit of a bummer. But I didn't feel connected to the characters. I thought the plot was a little bit weak, so that is why this one is on this list. I don't know if, I think it might still be in my bookshelf at my school. I would have to go look, but I did not like this one, and I don't think it's a solid, I don't think it's a middle grade book for me, unfortunately. Another Owl Crate book that I don't have anymore because I sold it on Pango was Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrews. I'll touch a photo here. This was another book that just was weird, and it was like a fever dream. I think reading the author's note made me like it a little bit more, but it only got a 3 star. It was about these characters that like grew up together, but then one of them died, and they had to kind of come back together to kind of like figure out the death. It was very dark. It was very horror-ish, and it just, I don't know. It was a very like quick read. Like, I wanted to read it, but I didn't like any of the characters, so that was why it's on this list. It was not an enjoyable read. I will say that. So that book only got like 3 stars from me. Again, sort of like my other special editions. They are so pretty, so I have a hard time getting rid of the books that are just very, very pretty. But yeah. The other Alison Saft on this book is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. I will attach a photo here. This I'm also a bit bummed out because my friend Tiffany and Sam got this for me when they went to San Diego Comic-Con. And this book was just boring. It was in the romantasy category. I honestly think it's more of a cozy fantasy. But the mystery element just didn't work for me. And I think this book was, like, did not know what it wanted to be. I don't know if it wanted to be a romantasy. I don't know if it wanted to be a cozy fantasy. I don't know if it wanted to be a mystery. It just was too many genres that didn't really collide well together. And it was boring. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the plot. I even bought the audiobook thinking that would help, and it didn't. So I only gave this book 2 stars. So, yeah, that is why it is on this list. And I really hope I can go back and read some Alison Saft that I do like, because I've heard such good things about her older stuff, but her newer books have not been working. This book is going to be a bit of a disappointment. This is from Booktuber, the Booktuber round I was in when they were giving me Rex. And The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This is a bit of disappointing because it just didn't work. So I don't know. I feel very, very conflicted. But here's a photo of this book. I will admit, I was reading this during the Amazing Readathon, and it was literally the perfect book for the perfect prompt. But I had to speed read it, and I read it so early. I think I read this in like early June, and I didn't have to read it that early. But I really loved his other stuff. It had trials, it had competitions, but none of the elements of the story felt like they hit me. Like, I didn't feel that connected to the characters. I thought the trials were a little bit boring. So I don't know. I think I may have got the audiobook for this one as well. You could tell if I don't like something, I pick up the audiobook because it helps with my focus sometimes. But yeah, this book just didn't work. And I got the sequel, so I'm going to give the sequel another shot. I know Leandra from Leandra's TBRs really did like this book, and she was encouraging me to read it during Amazing Readathon. But yeah, it just didn't work. So, and I'm going to still give the sequel a shot because I have loved Cemetery Boys and his other books. But for some reason, this book didn't work. And I don't know if it was a wrong book, wrong time, but I was not that impressed. And the next book that I read was for a reading challenge of something. I think it was for Aurelium. I had to read a book that I think was on a list for what books Leo's like, because Leo's my birthstone. And this is the Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookshop. I'll attach a photo here. And this book was just confusing, and it was boring, and I didn't understand. I felt like I was reading like a lit fic book with some like sci-fi elements, and I don't know. It just was like, it was hard to follow. It was confusing. I was confused. It was a quick read. I remember I was listening to this while I was cleaning my classroom when I got a new classroom last year. And I remember I was more focused on, like, the book did not hold my attention when I was cleaning, which is rare to do. So I don't know. It just didn't work. I don't even really remember this much. I read this book in March and I like have no memory of it. But I remember reading it and being like, oh no, this is not it. I remember saying this is not it in my review. So not it. That's why it's on this list. Another book that I read that I was a little bit disappointed by was Kiss the Girl by Zordaya Cordova. I will attach a photo here. This is the only book that I've read in this series, and I've heard really good things about the other ones, but this is like an Ariel retelling, and it was just plain boring. Like, it did not have the, I mean, I don't know, the concept was interesting, but I don't think it was executed very, very well. The characters didn't connect to me. There was enough of, there was enough Ariel connections to the story to make me know it was a Little Mermaid retelling, but I didn't like it. This had like a singing element to it. I wanted to like it, but I didn't. I still want to go back and read the other books in the series because I've heard really good things about all the other ones, but Kiss the Girl was not it. Was not it, unfortunately. If I didn't attach a photo, here it is. The next three I think are my most disappointing, and that's why I kind of put them at the bottom of this graphic. Some of my historical romance fans are gonna be mad at me for this one, I think. I read again The Magic by Lisa Kleypas and I did not like it, and I gave it barely a 3-star read, and that is mostly because of the secondary romance, but here's the photo. The only reason this book got 3 stars was because the secondary romance I liked a lot more. I hated the male main character. He was horrible, and I despised it. And it's so upsetting because this was like the book that everyone was like, oh, if you're a second chance romance girly, if you were like friends to lovers, if you like all those things, you have to read this Lisa Kleypas book. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I felt like I didn't understand the justification of the hatred of the male character throughout the whole story towards the female. Like, there was some drama, there was things going on, but like he was so evil to her, and it just turned me off. I really liked the secondary romance, which is why this book got 3 stars, but if it was just their romance, I would have given it a 2-star. So incredibly disappointed. And I mean, I have liked other books by Lisa Kleypas. I have liked her like Hathaway series, the last couple of books in that series, but this book just was not it, unfortunately, and I'm really, really sad. All my historical romance friends are going to be so mad at me, but that's okay. Did not work. Another book that I just was very disappointed with was the reappearance of Rachel Smythe by Holly Jackson. I'll touch a photo here. This book, I really did not understand the main character in this story. So let's give you the premise. She's working on a documentary talking about how her mom disappeared. And then in this process, her mom returns. And her reaction to her mom coming back is so bizarre to me. She's like, oh my God, my mom's actually like, oh my God, she's suspicious. What is happening? And it felt like totally weird to me, her reaction like that. Like, it was like an overreaction that didn't make sense to me. The book was okay, but I did not like this main character. And I will admit, when I started reading A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, book 1 and book 2 I loved. Book 3 I did not like at all, and I felt like it was a character shift very similar to this character. So I don't know, I really struggle with unlikable characters. That hasn't really popped up in this list, but in the past, if I don't like a book, it's mostly because of the characters. So yeah, that is why that book is on this list. It did not hit. It did not hit, unfortunately. And then, honestly, the most disappointing book I read this year, and this is gonna make some people mad. And I haven't seen any worse of the books year list yet, but it's gonna make mine because I was so disappointed in this book. But I'm saying in 2024, it is going to be a worse book. If I reread it and I change and I'm in a better mental spot, could it get a higher rating? Yeah. But Iron Flame and me did not get along. I will touch a photo here. I will say this book was on the tail end of having a lot of family drama. I read this like in the middle of that, so I may not be in the mental space, but this book was so slow. And I think the highlight for me for Fourth Wing was the dynamics between the dragons and the riders, and this just did not exist in Iron Flame, so I think that was a bit of a miss. I also didn't reread Fourth Wing before, so I feel like if I'm going to like go into Onyx Storm, I need to reread everything. But in 2024, this book was my lowest rated. It only got like 3.5 stars. I think I made it bumped up to 4 on Goodreads, but I really had a really bad time reading this book, so that is why it's on this list. Yeah, so I hope you guys aren't too mad at me. Let me know what was your worst book of the year. I used to do a challenge where I would like read people's worst books and see if I found any gems. I don't think I'm going to do that this year, but I am going to kind of take a spin on best and worst books of the year. And kind of make that into a new series on my channel. But yeah, let me know what was your worst book. I would love to know. I can't promise I'm going to read it, but I would still like to know what it is. And I'll talk to you guys for another video soon. Bye.